Spoiler warning for the people who have not seen the recent PlushBrains StoryTime video. If you haven't seen it, please go watch it before watching this video. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. Hello everyone, and today I'm here to talk about my recent video, or one of my recent videos, the PlushBrains Storytime video for Rocket Power Best Bro. Christ, I still can't believe I read that. Anyways, not only is it the longest PlushBrains Storytime video I've made so far, not counting the live streams, but it's probably also the most ambitious one I've made, at least in my opinion. I definitely put a lot into it, and I'm pretty happy with how the final product turned out. Obviously, I had to incorporate a lot more into it to make up for the crappy story that was being read, but I think it paid off in the end. However, with the video this long, I mean, seriously, this long, it's like the length of like 2.5 PlushBrains Storytime videos, there were bound to be some changes. So today, I'm going to talk about some stuff that didn't happen, some things that might have influenced what happened in the video, and some other random fun facts about the video. So here we go. Here are 8 fun facts about PlushBrains Storytime Rocket Power Best Bro. So, as I've already stated, this video is like an hour and 40 minutes long, which is about the length of like 2.5 PlushBrains Storytime videos. So, because of this length, the original intention was that it was supposed to be 2 parts. So, there would be one part which would be from the start of the video up until Otto saying that they were missing a guy, and then the second part would begin with a little recap, and then it would pick up where SpongeBob is, and then it would be the rest of the video. The reason why I decided to do one video was because of a community poll I did on YouTube. I actually asked if they would mind 2 parts, and they actually wanted 1 full video, so I didn't want to disappoint, so that's why the video is 1 big video rather than 2 easy to digest parts. I'm still happy with how the video turned out, but again, sorry to anyone who actually wanted 2 separate parts. When you make YouTube videos, it's always important to plan out the video before you begin making it. Whether it be writing a script or writing down jokes and scenarios. And it's always important to plan out this sort of stuff for at least a month or 2, which is what I usually do. However, this video actually goes far back, like a lot farther back. I mean, not too far back, but definitely far back. The planning for this video in particular began sometime in January. I kid you not. It was that long ago. In fact, the image with the villains in that fiery background, I made that on January 4th of this year. Yes, that's how far back I've been planning this video. In fact, the decision for me to put villains in my show was actually made in December of last year. So, if you consider that as part of the, the development of this video, yeah, that's pretty far back. So, as you know, the story of this video is that Zim has Kermit, and in order for Bart and the rest of his friends to get him back, they have to read this dreadful Rocket Power book. And of course, Bart fails, which leads to him being, kidnapped by Zim, and then the rest, and so on and so forth. But then SpongeBob comes back to save the day, and that's when things really heat up. But what if I was to tell you there was another story that was considered before I settled on this one? Back when I was deciding on how the villains were all going to strike the characters at once, I was reminded about the Shrek musical. In that musical, Farquaad constantly referred to the fairy tale creatures as freaks. So I thought, hey, why not have the villains kidnap all of the non-humanoid characters or the anthropomorphic characters and just leave the humans to read the book? That was the one I was heavily considering on until I remembered the fact that Lord Farquaad wasn't the leader of the villains. Zim was. And Zim's main focus in Invader Zim is the humans. Sure, he's done some subjects on animals, but mostly it's the humans he's after, so why he wouldn't bother with the humans is very strange. So at that point, I decided to switch it around, where they kidnap all the human characters, leaving all the freak characters to read the book, and then I would just have Farquaad simply complain about not capturing the freaks, and then Zim, of course, telling them to shut up because he's the leader. But then something happened. I bought a new character for the show, and that character was Rocco. And yes, as you see here, I actually purchased him on January 25th. So now I was trying to figure out a way to introduce Rocco. I probably could have done it in another video, but then I thought, hey, what if I introduce him in this video with the help of a friend? And that's what I did. So I negotiated with Matthew, and we decided that, hey, why not we introduce Rocco from Matt's dimension, say he was living there and he was doing terrible, but then he could start a new life with Kermit and Bart and all them. And that's what happened. And as you've seen, he was also in the unboxing video that was done on the same day. So yes, I'm very happy with how Rocco's introduction was done, and I want to thank Matthew again for helping me out with that. In fact, actually, the recordings for Matthew and his SpongeBob were done in February, shortly after I got Rocco. So, yes, that's also another thing that was kind of like, you know, early on worked on. So, yes, but now with Rocco there in the group, I had to figure out a way to introduce him, so I thought, hey, why not have one of the characters go to his dimension where Zim can't get him, where Zim can't find him? And so that's what I did. SpongeBob went to Matthew's dimension as early as March in SpongeBob Drive-Thru, and he wouldn't return until Rocket Power Best Bro. So I personally think that made it a lot more ambitious, so I'm glad with how the final story turned out. However, there was one other thing involving the story, and while the base of it didn't change, the location most certainly did. The big fight scene. Now that was probably one of the most difficult parts to film with the video. And while I'm okay with how it turned out, I can't help but think it was a little anticlimactic. I mean, again, I still am happy with how it turned out, but I think I could have done a lot better, especially with the original intention I had. The fight scene was originally supposed to take place in Zim's lair, which you've seen in a couple of little clips in the video. This was mostly due to an altered version of the final story, where Kermit and friends wouldn't be lifeless in the corner of the pool house, but rather would be teleported to Zim's lair. So because Kermit and friends were supposed to be in the same room as Zim at the time that SpongeBob, Rocco, and Mickey finished the book, Zim would have known they were back to life immediately because they would have heard all the moaning and groaning coming from them. In fact, there was actually another scene that was planned for this original story where Otto and Winslow were messing around with some of the characters' lifeless bodies. Specifically, I think Pooh and maybe one other character. Pooh was supposed to be one of them, but I forgot who the other one was. Along with this, two other scenes were planned. One of them is that Homer wasn't supposed to join SpongeBob, Rocco, and Mickey after he lost his mind control helmet. Zim would have gotten a hold of him and would have thrown him in the back of the cage with the rest of everyone. And number two is that Rocco was supposed to be hanging off of a bed with the scene with the Plunger of Doom, which I personally thought would have been really cool to do. But now, you're probably wondering, why didn't I go with this? Why didn't I use this original concept and instead have the whole fight take place in the pool house instead? Well, it was because of family. Yes, this was in the main house, technically, and every time I got done with this scene, which was the first scenes I did were like the little scenes with Zim on the TV, every time I got done with a line, my dogs would literally start barking and start running down the stairs. And yes, obviously that became an issue. Plus, you could hear everything in that room. So it wasn't going to happen. So at that point, I just realized, okay, I got to cheapen this up a bit. And I guess I'm going to have to move it out to the pool house. I am a bit upset that I had to do that. But I am still mildly happy with how the final fight turned out. Sorry to anyone who was disappointed after hearing that. So as I said before, one notable thing that happened in the video was that Homer got mind controlled. He was really sick of Zim messing with his friends, so as a payback, Zim had his guys mind control him, so he was a member of Zim's group. And yes, this was not a part of the original story either. Obviously, you might notice that Homer actually had a different voice, and if you're wondering why he had a different voice, well, honestly, the reason should be pretty obvious if you're aware of why he has a different voice. But if you're not familiar with the origins of that particular voice, we're going to have to tap into some Simpsons facts as well. For the uninformed, but seriously, who isn't informed at this point? Before The Simpsons got their own primetime series in 1989, they originally made their debut on The Tracey Ullman Show, which was an adult variety show that ran from 1987 to 1989, I believe. I don't remember. But this was the first exposure that the world had to The Simpsons. Now, if you're unaware of the original Simpson bumpers and you're wondering what this has to do with Homer's mind-controlled voice, I'm getting there. So as a lot of you may know, Homer is widely regarded as, the main Simpsons character. He's responsible for a lot of the show's funniest and most well-known moments. And, most of the time, whenever we talk about The Simpsons, he's the first character that comes to mind. He's just so goofy and lovable, and, he's definitely the one that, in my opinion, made the show. But that wasn't the case, and I'm pretty sure that Matt Groening didn't even want that to happen to begin with, because back then, when Bart was the one character that represented the show, Homer was very different, extremely different. Instead of being the lovable goofball that we all know him today, he was an angry, aggressive, and dare I say, dictator of a father. Oh, dear God. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the early Homer, it is jarring to say the least. To think an idiot was like this at some point was... yike. Now, it's obviously fact that Bart has always been a thorn in Homer's side, but back then, it was a lot bigger. In fact, he even threatened Lisa and Maggie. Yes, he threatened Maggie, too. Isn't that a sight to behold? And back then, when Homer was this dictator of a father, I know dictator's a strong word, he actually had a different voice. Now, not a different voice actor. Dan Castellaneta still voiced him at the time, but the voice was originally based on Walter Matthau. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I could be doing that completely wrong. And yes, the voice obviously sounds a lot different from what we know Homer today, and it definitely doesn't sound dumb, honestly. It definitely sounds like, a very serious kind of voice. So I thought, hey, why not do this thing where Homer gets mind-controlled, and that's his voice when he's mind-controlled? So, yeah, that's where the whole Homer got mind-controlled and why he sounds different when he's mind-controlled thing came from. It came from The Tracey Ullman Show. In fact, that even carried on into the first season of The Simpsons. By the end of that, Homer was doing a couple of more questionable, not-so-smart things, and by season 2, he got his iconic dumb voice, and, he was kind of more of an idiot. He still had his angry instincts, but they were definitely toned down by then. Okay, this isn't necessarily a fun fact, but I'm not sure anybody noticed it, and quite frankly, I didn't feel like editing it out because I really didn't want to lose the live chat from the premiere of the video, but there was an error with one of Bart's lines where I didn't chop it up enough, and it kind of duplicated itself.
You want to take over our show? All villain, mighty villain like you wants to take over our You want to take over our show? An almighty, powerful villain like yourself wants to run a plush show? Are you serious?
The reason why I didn't edit it out, aside from losing the live chat from the premiere, is that I personally thought it kind of fits. I mean, Zim's plan was pretty unvillainish. Again, there's so much you can do with villains in a show about reading dumb books. So I thought maybe it's like Bart's saying it twice because he's just baffled by this stupid plan. I don't know. Whether or not I'll actually edit it out and sacrifice the chat of the video is to be determined in the future. So, I've mentioned this fiery image with the villains, and you've seen this pretty much every time a villain was introduced. And yes, this is the final version of the image. And again, I made this in January of this year. However, as I said before, I originally intended on this video being a two-parter. So, because of this, I had to do some modifications for the fact that Gurr rejoined Zim and Homer got mind-controlled. So I made this. And here, there's also a blurred-out version, too, which would have transitioned from the blurred-out one with just Zim blurred out, and then to that. But, yes, this image would have been used if I did do a two-parter route. But because people voted to not do that, obviously this got scrapped. But here it is, a little behind-the-scenes thing of something that didn't get used. In fact, I did record some ending dialogue of me explaining the current situation for if it would have been a two-parter. So here it is for what was going to be part 1. Part 2, I never got around to recording that because that was when it was decided that it would be one big video. So before we move on to the next fun fact, take a listen to this. Holy crap. That's right, people. You're not dreaming. It is true. The main antagonist of PlushBrains is Invader Zim. And let this change to the image sink in of how much of a problem Zim's going to be to Kermit and the gang. He has not only reclaimed Gurr as part of his team, but he has also mind-controlled Homer. If he can do that, by God, who knows what else he can do? Oh boy, it seems like things are kind of over for Kermit and the gang. I mean, it seems like they've pretty much lost. Or have they? If you remember, Otto did say he thought there was one other guy. Truth be told, there is one more guy. There's somebody that Zim doesn't have. Although who it is, I'm not going to tell you, but all I'm going to say is that if you look back on a couple of past PlushBrains StoryTime videos, the answer might be very clear. So with all that said, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Be sure you'll follow us on Twitter. There'll be a link to that down in the description below. And stay tuned for part 1 coming very, very soon. Like, probably sometime this week. Yeah. Again, I didn't take into consideration how long this one was going to be. And granted, I have done hour-long ones before, but, suspense. If you hate that, then I'm sorry. Anyway, have a good night, and let's hope to dear Lord there's a happy ending to all this. This right here is the final fact I have about PlushBrains Storytime for Rocket Power Best Bro. So, you might remember the scenes with Boris, Tommy, Cookie Monster, Garfield, and Stimpy getting teleported out to the pool house. Well, originally I was going to do a scene like that for the rest of the characters, but at that point I figured, you know what, that would probably drag the video on unnecessarily, so let's just not do that. Let's just stick with the remainders of Kermit's group and Cookie Monster's group, and then we can call it there. Granted, I think there was only like Arnold and Cat Dog left. I'm probably forgetting somebody else, or maybe some ones, but yeah, I just, I didn't want to risk it at the time, so I was just like, for the sake of the video length, let's not drag it on. Let's just keep it very condensed. But while we're on the subject of this teleporting scene, I did forget to put in a scene. So you might remember that something very similar happened to Shaggy Monster during his word of the day, where Zim just kind of came out of nowhere and, just kind of bopped him right there. And then there was supposed to be a scene where he would get teleported into the corner as well. I did not include that scene, I guess because I forgot. But I guess it's kind of benefited. Actually, no, here's the clip, by the way. Now, again, the reason why that didn't make it into the video was because I forgot to put it in. But honestly, I think it was a good thing that I forgot, because it honestly really wouldn't have worked because of the placement. 1, Shaggy Monster was supposed to, he was supposed to become lifeless in the pool house. So why would he need to be teleported? Number 2, the scene after the scene where he was supposed to get teleported would have been the scene with Farquaad and Otto in front of all of the lifeless bodies. So the placement would have been very odd, honestly. And I didn't have a scene of Zim to put in between those, so I just kind of, it's a good thing that I forgot about that, honestly, because it probably would have made the video a lot more sloppier. Okay, maybe not, but whatever. I do what I do. And so, this concludes this special fun facts, behind-the-scenes trivia video for PlushBrains StoryTime for Rocket Power Best Bro. I honestly forgot what I was calling this, but yes, I hope you guys enjoyed this. There is no guarantees I'll do something like this for future videos. I just decided, I thought this one was more ambitious, so I thought it deserved something like this. But, yeah, if you learned a thing or two today, that's cool, I guess, and, I don't really have anything else to say, so thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. There'll be a link to that down in the description below. And I'll be seeing you soon.